GM. Welcome to Web3 Academy, your one trusted source to capitalize on the next big phase of the internet. It's the weekly roll-up where we make sure you don't get caught in the hype cycle. I'm Jay Bird, joined by my co-host Kyle Reedhead, and we believe that CZ is not going to change the world. That's why we're carving a path for doers to confidently build and invest in Web3.
Big news week, another one. I feel like each week we're building and building as we enter into this bull market here. You mentioned CZ, that is the founder, CEO of Binance, who is no longer the CEO of Binance. He's had to step down and pay a hefty $4 billion fine. We'll cover exactly what happened there. Blur Season 3 is here. We'll also talk about what happened with Season 2 and something new called Blast that they've launched. They keep shipping, and I'm actually somewhat bullish on them finally. Anyway, the DOJ has threatened crypto and DeFi. The SEC is suing Kraken. Markets are all over the place. It's a wild, wild ride right now. And we have a resolution of Sam Altman and OpenAI, but we won't touch too much on that because you all probably know what's going on there. But anyway, before we get into all that stuff, the wacky, wild world of crypto, let's start with a little bit of gratitude. Jay, what are you grateful for?
Yeah, I'm grateful for today is opening day at Whistler. The mountain is back open. I can get out on my snowboard again for the ski season. There's snow in the mountains, and yeah, can't wait. Stoked. Opening day. It's one of my favorite days of the year.
Are you going today?
I'm going to go this afternoon, yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, I guess we're both taking the afternoon off because my gratitude today is it's American Thanksgiving. And although I'm Canadian and don't necessarily celebrate that, I do like football, and there is lots of football today. 3 big games. I'm a Cowboys fan, and they played tonight before, and so I'm meeting 4 of my best buddies, guys that I've been friends with since grade 2, which is crazy. And so we're all going for just, for some food and to watch the games and that. So it's going to be a good time. Go Cowboys.
I love it. Go Cowboys. Go Cowboys. I'm a Jags fan. Go Jags. I don't know if they're
random. I've never had a Jags fan.
When I was a kid, somebody bought me a Jags, some paraphernalia by them, right. And I just loved the logo, of a jaguar. It's very cartoony sort of, and yeah, I always loved them. But I'm not diehard Jags fan. I'm more of a NFL football fan.
Right.
Before we jump in,
happy Thanksgiving to all the Americans out there. Hope you enjoy your day. Happy turkey.
Happy turkey. Hope you guys have. I love that Americans take the full week off for American Thanksgiving. We got to. How do we bring that up to Canada?
Full week? Is it?
Yeah, it's quite common for them to take the full week off.
That's wild.
Before we jump into today's episode, we got an exciting announcement. 2 weeks from now is our Eyes on Chain event. This is an event we do once a month in our Discord where we bring our community together and we go through the most important stats and analytics that are happening on chain. And right now, what is the most important thing happening on chain? Prepping for the bull run and the bull market and knowing how to allocate your capital and what you should be doing and what you should be watching and how to do this with confidence. And we don't want you to miss out because there's big opportunity right now. So Kyle is putting together a presentation along with Pablo, shout out to our on-chain analysts, with their top tips for the bull market. So we're going to create a framework for you so that you're aware of the do's and the don'ts in the bull market so that you don't get caught in the hype cycle, but you also don't miss the opportunities. So if you're not in our Discord, go ahead and join. Link is in the show notes. And this is open to everybody in our community. So jump in. We'd love to see you there.
And it's the Tuesday at 12 o'clock p.m. EST, I believe. And we'll also do an AMA at the end. So you come with all your questions. We're going to be doing everything we can to help you succeed in this bull market. Speaking of that, let's get into some market watch. But before we do that, let's take a second and hear from our sponsors.
Modern newsletters are built on Paragraph. That's right. Paragraph is a brand new newsletter platform that combines the best parts of Web 2 and Web 3 to supercharge newsletters for both writers and readers. Build a community, not just an audience. Paragraph uses blockchain tech to allow readers to collect and own the words that matter to them. This takes reading a newsletter to the next level. With Paragraph, readers can mint, collect, and show off quotes from their favorite newsletters. This opens new possibilities like creators sharing revenue with fans. I also love their new feature, Paragraph AI. This integrates GPT-4 natively in Paragraph to create, edit, and improve your writing effortlessly with one click. And guess what? We at Web3 Academy are on board and have already moved our content over to Paragraph. We believe this is the future of newsletters because of the profound engagement it creates between creators and fans. So, whether you're a creator, writer, or an avid reader, it's time to check out Paragraph and capitalize on the opportunity of being early. Welcome back, Kai. As we always do, let's start with the market watch. What's going on in the markets this week?
Yeah, so like normal, we'll start with Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol. Just take a quick look at prices. On the day, we're down 1% on Bitcoin, down 2.2%, 2.29% for the week. But, that's due. We've had a hell of a month, a hell of a 6 months, a hell of a year to date. If you look at the stats I have up on the screen here. And so a little pullback here and there. This isn't even really a pullback, to be honest. It's a pullback for ants. And so this is just a breather in the markets, which is honestly a really good thing. I'll talk about why in just a second. But let's jump over to ETH real quick. So ETH down 0.85% on the day, down 0.66 on the week. ETH's actually had a bit of a stronger week than Bitcoin. Again, same thing. This is just all good, all healthy. Solana had a big pullback at 13%. But again, that's literally nothing considering it's gone up 78% in the last month. It is down a little bit on the day, but we're kind of just fluctuating at the moment. Not much happening in the markets. We're really just taking a bit of a breather. And when I say that, if you look on the screen, what I have up here is this is a chart of Bitcoin. And on the bottom, you see this weird purple, yellow lines here. And these are what's called the RSI, or the Relative Strength Index. And basically, this is like a momentum tracker of assets. And so when it goes above this 0.7 mark here, the yellow or the red, the yellow is like a delayed trending line. It's like a 20-day or 50-day moving average. And then the purple is what's actually happening in real time. And when it goes above this 0.7 mark, it's called oversold or overbought, sorry. And generally at some point soon, it doesn't mean it's going to happen right away, but generally it means that we're going to lose some momentum and it's time to come back down to our mean trend line there. And sometimes it can last longer, as you can see here. This one lasted for a few weeks, but we're starting to come back down. We're dipping below that overbought area, which is really good. That's just kind of a reset. It means, hey, now we can go back upwards. Probably it's going to come back down a little bit more, but let's see. ETH, same thing. This one we really needed to come down. It's down back at almost the mean trend line there at 0.5. And Sol, which really needed this, is also starting to come down. The yellow still hasn't made it yet, but it'll get there any day now. So maybe we have a few more days of sort of just consolidation. I think December is going to be a big month. And so it's likely we are going to jump back up once these sort of reset. These aren't perfect, but they're just a good way to sort of guide in terms of momentum. I talked a lot about ETH. I think this was a few weeks ago where I showed this chart of ETH and sort of this, you call it bull flag, you call it a descending channel, whichever it is. Again, you might want to be watching on YouTube or on Spotify to actually see this. But basically all it is after a big run up this year of ETH, it's been in this sort of downward trend for months. And I flagged a couple of weeks ago that we're soon going to break out of that. If we do, we'll probably jump up to 2,000 pretty quickly. Well, that's what happened a couple of weeks ago. End of October is when we really did that. Or sorry, beginning of November is when we jumped up like that. And we hit this trend line here that you can see this blue line. Sorry, it's resistance, which is at 2,140. This is key because we've hit it twice. Well, I guess 3 times now this year, and we can't seem to break through it. Once we break through it, though, in terms of technicals, there's just nothing there all the way until 3,000. And so it's very likely that whenever we break 2140, we're just going to fly to 3,000. Now, it's not going to happen in a day, but it's going to happen pretty quickly. And there's just not much resistance or things to hold it back. So that's a big thing I think we want to be watching right now. Bitcoin, Sol have obviously had big runs. ETH is, starting to come back a little bit, but it looks like whenever it hits that 2140, it's kind of game on for probably a few weeks to months there. So that's a big thing that I'm watching right now. The other big area that I wanted to touch on was sticking into the crypto world here. We'll get to macro in a second. Is I wrote a pro report today that went out predicting the prices of Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol at the end of the cycle or the top of the cycle. Now, I don't expect these to be perfect, but I use them as sort of a guide to help me kind of navigate the coming cycle. And I wanted to just share a little bit of that here. I won't share it all because you got to be a pro subscriber, sign up to that if you want to check it out to get more details. But what was really interesting is one of the things I looked at was past cycles. And so what I have up on the chart or up on the screen here is Bitcoin in its entirety. Okay. And we're just looking at the price of Bitcoin in its entirety. And we can see the tops and the bottoms of each cycle of Bitcoin. There has been 3 real cycles so far. The green line here outlines the top. The red line outlines the bottom. So we can see we had it here, and from 2014 we had a top, 2018 we had a top, and 2021 we had a top, right? What's crazy is if you measure these out, the similarities between these cycles, it's unbelievable. So if you measure from the top to the bottom back in 2014, you got 396 days between the top and the bottom. If you do it again from the next cycle in 2016, 2017, 2018, you get 365 days. And then if you do the last cycle, when we were just in, it's again 396 days. Identical to the two before it, and very close to the one just before it. So that is pretty mind-blowing, to be fair. We always say history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. This is almost repeating, which is crazy, than 3 times. And then if we look at the top to top, which will help us sort of predict what could the top be for this cycle. If we go the first cycle, we see 1,461 days. And then if we look at the second cycle, 1,400 days. So about 2 months difference, 60 days or so off, but still very similar. And so if we kind of average that out, we look at the same thing and we sort of project that out into this cycle, we're looking at about an October 2025 top for Bitcoin. The entire crypto market might be different. Ethereum usually lags about a month, altcoins a few months after that-ish. But we're looking at around October 2025 for a top. And then the bottom sits at about November 2026. Again, we have no idea if this will play out the same way as others, but it's pretty telling when you look at this chart, I'll tell you that. I highly recommend you guys look at this. It's wild. The other thing I want to share is if you then take that number and you throw it on the log chart of the total crypto market cap. So I talk a lot about network effects. And if you look at technologies that have network effects, they typically follow this like regression channel, it's called. If you can't see what I'm talking about here, it's basically when you put the price chart of anything, whether it's Amazon, Apple, Google, they all follow the same thing. When you put them on a log and you have this like regression channel where it's just sort of like a straight line upwards, diagonally. And then you have like your trend line, which is the gray one here. And then you have 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviations, like overbought above it and then oversold below it. And it falls, it usually goes somewhere in between that. In these cycles, it'll go to the top, maybe, then it'll go down to the bottom. It just sort of like flows along that for years and years and years. Microsoft, Apple, they've all done it for 20 plus years. It's wild. You can put Bitcoin, you can put the crypto market cap on this same sort of regression channel. And so it has followed it within the same thing. And so if you add 2025 October and you look at, okay, well, what might we hit in terms of the total crypto market cap if we just stay along the trend line, which typically you always come back to that trend line at some point. It doesn't necessarily mean it's at the top of the cycle, but it just gives us kind of a number to look at. And the number we get here is almost $16 trillion for the crypto market cap by 2025 October. So maybe the top. That's just the trend line. For last cycle, we hit over 1 standard deviation overbought. And the cycle before that, we hit 2 standard deviations overbought. Now, I got a feeling that we don't reach those levels again. I think there's sort of diminishing returns with each cycle, but who knows? We have some ETFs this time around. There's more flow that could come in. But let's just say for fun, if we go look at the 1 standard deviation overbought, we're looking at $37 trillion in this market cap. Just so you guys are aware, we're currently sitting at 1.3 trillion. So that would be just wild. If we got 2 standard deviations, again, I don't think we will. We're looking at $81 trillion. Now, look, again, I do not think that that's going to happen. But what's really cool to look at here is like right now we're below 1 standard deviation oversold, okay? Which makes sense. We're in a bear market, or at least just coming out of a bear market. Let's say we just stay at 1 standard deviation oversold for whatever reason. We're still looking at $7 trillion, which is a 6x from here. So like still pretty good. Now I got a feeling we're gonna do more than that, but hey, let's see what happens here. But a nice just little thing to look at here. It gives you sort of a framework of where we might go. Something that's harder to understand when you hear those numbers without seeing it on this chart. It really, I think, paints a better picture and helps you sort of see what's going on.
Why does the total crypto market cap matter to you? What does that indicate? What does that give you in terms of confidence when you think about your investments in the space?
Yeah, it's actually a really good question. I think the crypto market cap is just a good telling sign of the total industry, right? And so you're not going to get every investment correct, but directionally you can see that crypto is in an uptrend, right? And so maybe you want to hold Bitcoin because it's the most dominant of this market cap. It generally makes up somewhere between like 40 and 50% of that total market cap. ETH is around 20% and so on and so forth. But basically it gives you a good signal of the industry in general. if this market cap was going down and getting out of this channel, you might want to get out of crypto, right? And so any technology is like this, it has these sort of trend lines here. And so you could look at the total market cap of technology to see, is technology still a thing? You can do the same with commodities to see, is commodities in general in a bull market or a bear market? And then with that, you would look deeper and you go, oh, it's in a bull market. Now maybe I want to look at what commodity? Same thing here. You can look at this chart, go, okay, crypto's obviously in a bear market due to this chart, but we can see that it's coming out of that bear market. That means big signal. Now I want to look into the crypto industry and see, what do I actually want to buy? So it's just a good kind of overview of the direction of the entire industry. Let's quickly then just touch on macro. There's not much on the macro side. First, this is actually still in the crypto world, but somewhat macro. A big sign of a bull market is when stablecoins, and we've only had stablecoins for one cycle, so this isn't like a perfect signal by any means, but it just theoretically it makes sense, is when stablecoin numbers start to go back up. It has been going down all bear market. That's because people leave the crypto ecosystem. They go back into the fiat world. They get out of risk assets and they go into things like treasuries, right? And so just over the last couple of weeks here, we've seen the stablecoin market cap start to go up. And it's now up almost $5 billion in the last couple of weeks, which is huge. Most of that's coming from Tether. But this is just a big sign that because it's $5 billion, it's not retail. This is institutions that are not in crypto, but they're on the sidelines. And it's much better to be holding stable coins than it is to be holding dollars, because you can quickly, using Uniswap or Coinbase or whatever, switch your stables into Bitcoin, ETH, etc. You can't do that with fiat. You got to actually move things. And when it's billions of dollars, it's harder to do. So this is just a good sign that the interest is really peaking or starting to peak in the institutional world. And they're now able to flow into crypto much easier. And so likely what we'll see is this, as long as this signal is correct, it's just going to continue to go up and up and up and up and up. And that's a really good sign. When that starts to go down, that's a good sign that, okay, maybe we're going back into a bear market. Now, this is generally a lagging indicator, right? We've been kind of in a bull market here for a couple months, whereas this is just the last couple weeks. So it's not like the best thing to look at, but it does give you like a good signal. Hey, things are looking pretty good here. And then the last couple things, there's not a lot in the macro world. We haven't had any unemployment updates or inflation updates or interest rate changes or any of that kind of stuff that will come in the next few weeks. So not much to go with there. One thing to point out, the Dixie, which is the US dollar versus other fiat currencies. As I've said a bunch of times, when that gets weaker, that's generally a really good thing for risk assets. And that continues to get weaker. It was at 104 last week. It was at 105 the week before that. It's now at 103. It almost got to 102 a couple days ago. It's sort of ranging between 103. I would expect that to continue down. It won't be a straight line down, but we're sort of changing into sort of a secular, let's call it like a bear, not a bear market for the dollar, but a downward channel for sure. And I think that will likely continue. And then the last thing, just to help solidify our approach that, hey, the bull market is back on, I'm going to go back to the NASDAQ, which I talked about last week, the cup and handle formation that we were talking, which is we were at all-time highs back in December 2021. Then we came down big over the year, started to form back up, and that created like a cup looking indicator. And then you have this handle that comes out where we're going back downwards. And this is when everyone's like, oh my God, it's over. The NASDAQ's done, stocks are over. And we were like, this is actually forming something super bullish. Last week, I was like, it just broke out. And if it breaks out, this thing is going to fly over the next few months. And you can just see this massive monthly candle here, literally following the line that I put here. It's not going to follow this line for forever. Obviously, we're going to move to the next month and the next month. But you can see how high we're about to go. We are now, just in terms of one of the calls I made 2 months ago when everyone was screaming that NASDAQ is going to nothing, I said that we're probably going to go to all-time highs by the end of the year. And we are currently 4.3% away from all-time highs in the NASDAQ. And so I would almost guarantee that we're going to get there by the end of this year. And why are we talking NASDAQ? NASDAQ, this is tech stocks. This is your Teslas. This is your Apples, your Amazons, et cetera. And this is risk assets. So if these assets are doing well, crypto's doing well. And so it's a really, really good sign that the NASDAQ is also doing good. If the NASDAQ was doing bad and crypto is doing good, we don't know what's going on in that world. That's a weird world. And I don't think we want to be there, not right now. And so this is just everything seems to be really pointing towards we're heading into a bull market. It's time to buckle up.
Let's go. Very, very bullish signs all across the board. Even when it's a volatile week, when lots is happening with Binance and the DOJ and Kraken getting sued, and we're going to jump into all of that now. Kai, thanks for the Market Watch update. and keeping us all confident in our investments. Okay, first up, Binance. What happened with Binance? Well, we'll get into why we think this is actually a good thing, but let me just first tell you what happened. So Binance was under investigation from the DOJ, the Department of Justice in the US, and was found guilty of a couple of different charges, 3 different charges specifically. And as a result of that, they agreed to pay a $4 billion fine to settle that charge. Now, let's be clear. $4 billion for Binance is basically a slap on the wrist. It's not a massive fine for them. They have over $67 billion in on-chain assets alone, not to mention who knows how many hundreds of billions of dollars they have off-chain in their bank account that we can't see. Now, as part of this, the big news was that they pushed CZ out. CZ, the CEO of Binance, had to step down from Binance and remove himself and agree to no longer have an operating role within Binance. Basically, he had to admit fault for these charges, and he also is potentially going to be given a jail sentence. There's a sentencing coming up in the future. He could be sent to jail. I would say unlikely that he actually gets sent to jail, but we'll see how that sentencing goes. Right now, he could be sentenced to up to 18 months in jail, and he had to pay a bond to be released right now. So he's out on bond. Look, in the end, we're talking about the biggest crypto exchange in the world that really had the potential to, I shouldn't say had the potential, but there was a lot of fear that we could have an FTX repeat event here. And that type of black swan event is scary for everybody in the crypto space when we don't really know what Binance is doing. They're not under any jurisdiction. They're not regulated by anybody anywhere in the world. And so there's a lot of fear. And really what this event does is it removes that fear. I don't know about for you, Kai, but for me, I have much more. I sleep better at night not knowing that CZ is out. I don't think CZ is necessarily a bad guy. I think maybe he crossed some lines, but all within a range that's kind of acceptable when you're playing in the field of new technology where there's no clear regulation. So, but the Binance piece, I feel much more confident that we're not going to get a black swan event from Binance now. So that makes me feel better that, yeah, we're not going to have another FTX event here.
Yeah, I always felt pretty good about Binance. I know institutions were scared. And even I think the SEC, this was one of the things the SEC needed to figure out before they can approve something like a Bitcoin ETF, because you can't really go, hey, America, we're down for you guys to invest in Bitcoin and ETH, but there's this like multi-billion dollar company that has a lot of control over this space and we don't know what they're doing or where they are. It's like, I think this was the last thing the SEC needed to actually give the go-ahead for the ETF. So I think this is actually quite bullish on that side. And then also just for institutions to then enter the space and not think there's another FTX that's going to happen here. So my take on this is, one, for those that don't know CZ, the guy has been in this space for a long time. He's been in, I think, since 2012, he said. He started Binance in I think it was maybe 2017, 2016. And it's the biggest exchange by a long shot. Like I'm talking, its daily volumes are 4x Coinbase. Coinbase is actually, people don't realize this, but Binance is 150 million users. Coinbase is 108, like KYC users or active users. And Binance has 4x the amount of volume as Coinbase. And there's, I think OKX and Bybit are both higher than Coinbase. Coinbase isn't actually as big as we think it is over here in North America. Mm-hmm. It is big, obviously, but Binance is just a massive, massive, massive thing. Anyway, CZ has actually been a big, when I say role model, I'm not sure if I want to use the term role model, but he's done so much for this space.
Like, he's been an innovator. He's been an
innovator. He's onboarded more people to this space than anyone. He's been a net positive for the space, no doubt. And I just want people to realize, like, this is very different than what happened with FTX. The media headlines right now, if you listen to TV or you look wherever, it's like they're saying this is the same thing as FTX. It's not. They were not commingling funds. They were not leveraging users' funds to do things. Look, I actually think what they did, they kind of had to do it. Crypto's this new industry, this new asset class. It's not regulated. There are no rules, right? We're just sort of getting rules. And so when you want to create an exchange in 2017, you don't know what rules to play by. There are no rules. You don't know what protocols and processes and systems to use because they don't exist, right? And so you either had to go super slow and do nothing. I mean, Coinbase basically stuck around in the US. That was it, and just basically followed like TradFi rules and just didn't do much else. But Binance was like, look, we want to get the rest of the world because they need this. We need South America in here because they are the ones with the currencies that are inflating. We need Asia. We need whatever. And you have to kind of, it's not even break rules, but bend rules, I guess, because the rules aren't actually there. And so as a startup, this is kind of what you got to do is you got to just like go for it and then ask for forgiveness later, right? Instead of asking for permission. That's what they did. And so like, of course, the US could pick them apart and find things that they did that were not correct and fine them for it. But it's like, you kind of had to do that to get to where they were. And we needed that to get this industry as big as it is. So like, I still respect CZ completely. It sucks that he had to do this. To me, this feels like this is the US just wanting to take control, right? You have this like sort of parallel financial system in crypto that's outside of the jurisdiction of anyone. The US hates that because they are the control of most of the financial world. And so just like they do with every industry and anything new, when it gets big enough, they step in and they start taking control. They've done it with the banking world. They do it in the tech world. They do it everywhere. And now they're saying, okay, crypto's here to stay. We got to get these we got to get the big players to be under our control and let them know like, hey, we're the boss and you're going to do what we say. And this is what they do. They do it with the banking industry too. And Jay just pulled up a tweet here. JP Morgan paid $13 billion to the DOJ in 2013. Deutsche Bank paid $7.2 billion in 2016. Goldman Sachs, $5.4 billion in 2020. Wells Fargo, $3.7 billion in 2022. This is just the price you pay to deal with financial stuff in a US-led world. So there's just not much you can do about it. Like there was some shady stuff going on, of course, with many of these banks, but ultimately they all still are in business. None of them have had to shut down. The US is just like, hey, you can do whatever you want, basically, but like you're going to pay us and like tighten up, you know? And so I think that's what they're doing for Binance. This is a net really good thing, I think. I think this moves the ETF forward. I think it moves the industry forward and takes that looming dark shadow of what's going to happen with Binance off. So overall, I think this is really, really good news. And the markets sort of have shown that since at first there was a scare and it sort of sold off. And then now it seems to be back on. So all good. The interesting thing from all this, or one funny thing anyway, was the DOJ had an announcement on Tuesday, I think it was, when this all happened.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, 3:00. And so Janet Yellen, who's from the Treasury in the US, and the members of the DOJ came on and they spoke and they announced, you know, what happened with Binance, what happened with CZ. And then at the very end, we have this video up here of Janet Yellen, who's this 90, I don't know if she's 90, but she looks at least
76. I looked at her. I was curious.
76-year-old. Why is she not retired?
Why is she working? What are you doing? You're 76.
Yeah, go retire. Like what?
Yeah.
This makes sense. Anyway, she just out of nowhere. So this whole announcement had to do with Binance, not a DeFi thing. This is a centralized exchange that has nothing to do with like DeFi. And she just comes up and says, let this be a message to all the DeFi and decentralized finance institutions, she calls them, that are out there, that they need to play by the rules. If you want to come into the US and provide services to US people and whatever, you've got to play by our rules. And so she basically sent a threat to the DeFi world, to the crypto industry, which like Binance is a centralized exchange. It's nothing to do with DeFi, but just ridiculous. And again, this just shows the US wants to control. It is what it is.
She had the mic, you know? Secretary Yellen gets the mic. She's going to let those young degens know that she's the boss.
She also keeps calling it Binance.
How the sign is she's surrounded by old white dudes, you know? She's like, the one thing I will say though, in this press conference, she uses the word currency a lot in reference to, she calls them virtual currencies. I don't know why she uses the word virtual. It's a very old person word to use, but she's using the word currency a lot, which is a real positive, I think, for us, that there is recognition on their end as, hey, these are currencies.
Yeah, which, I mean, some of them are not currencies. They're something completely different, but she won't wrap her head around that because she's 76 years old. So go retire, please, Janet Yellen. Moving on.
Kraken sued by the SEC again.
Yeah, again, this is tough. So I guess we'd call it good news with Binance, though, like debatable there. But then we have Kraken, who has been, you know, a great exchange in the US, has been around for a long time as well. Probably not on the same level as Coinbase, but trying to be not as big for sure. But in terms of like being a reliant exchange in the US, they've done a great job here. And so they went through a lawsuit earlier this year, and they ended up settling. So this was for their ETH staking service. So basically you could give ETH just like you can do in Coinbase, and then they would stake it and give you the yield. The difference was Coinbase actually has a native way where they actually stake it and they give you CB ETH, whereas Kraken wasn't really doing that. Technically, they could take your funds and do whatever they wanted and give you yield. They were likely just doing the staking, but we didn't know it. It wasn't written in their policies. So anyway, that's why they got taken in. They had to pay a $30 million fine as a result of that. And then they thought, okay, things are all good. We can move forward. Well, now they're sued again, this time for being an unregistered crypto platform or exchange platform. And basically the SEC is saying now they're allowing for unregistered securities to be on their platform, and they're enabling users to exchange them. And they listed off Solana and Matic and Decentraland and whatever else, 15 different tokens that are unregistered securities, which again is bullshit. It's the same lawsuit that they put on Coinbase, the same lawsuit they put on Binance. It's really, really annoying that they keep doing this because, again, they didn't include ETH, they didn't include Bitcoin, but again, they won't make clear what is and what isn't security in the space. So it's a bit of a joke, and again, a bit of a power struggle. Jesse Powell obviously was not happy about this. He's the founder of Kraken. He said, we've already paid them $3 million. Now we're going to look, it's going to be something
30,
like...
I've already paid them $30 million.
Yeah, sorry, $30 million. And now he's looking like this is going to cost another $100 million for this one. And so he said, if you can't afford to get your company out of the U.S. war zone, the U.S. is like, they're like a mob. They're like, oh, you want to come in our territory? All right, give me some money. You know what I mean? It's like, and we'll find any way we can to skirt the rules to make it look like you need to give me money. And it's just, it's terrible. It sucks. It's the world we live in. The U.S. government is a mob. There is just no doubt about that. They have control and they make use of it, and you got to pay your taxes, which really sucks. And when I say taxes, these aren't normal taxes. This is taxes to the mob. Jesse Powell's not happy about it. He said the same thing in a tweet calling them the mob as well, and just was like, you know, this is just doing business in the U.S. And if you don't have to be in the U.S., get out of there because it sucks.
Wow. Very bearish on being in the U.S. right now.
That's terrible.
I hope
it's still bad.
I mean, I think that this is just the way the U.S. has chosen to be in response to this innovation that, quite frankly, the people that are in governing power don't understand, right? But it doesn't mean long-term that they can't figure it out. I still hope that they can figure it out. And I think that thankfully there's a lot of good business leaders, good crypto leaders, Brian Armstrong, Coinbase, and many others who are actively campaigning and being involved and working with politics and trying to teach them in order to create regulation. So look, I think we'll get there, not at the pace that we would like, but I think we'll get there.
Yeah, I'm optimistic as well. I always am, but I feel bad. It just sucks. It just sucks that that's the way we have to do it.
Just a waste.
But like ultimately we need to get through these hoops for things to improve. It sucks that these hoops exist in the first place.
All right, next up, Blur has finished season 2 and their token price has gone up. Jay, Kyle, that's not what you guys said to me. You guys told me that when the Blur season 2 airdrop finished that the token would go down. Well, you know what? We were wrong. We're not always right. And we're very willing to say that here. And the token price has gone up. So, okay, why? Why did the token price go up? What's going on here? Let me explain. So Blur season 2 lasted about 9 months. It started in February. It ended on Monday of this week, November 20th. And there was an airdrop as a result of people who had activity lending, buying, selling on Blur. Over 100 million in tokens was distributed as part of this airdrop. At the same time, a few other things happened that I want to just touch on here, and then I'll explain them later. Pac-Man, the founder of Blur, also announced Blast, which is a new layer 2 blockchain that provides native yield that is by the same team basically behind Blur. And then they also announced Blur season 3 starting. So a lot of things happening here. And this is what is going to impact why this price of the token has not dropped. As part of Blur season 3, you can earn points in the same way. Points are what gets you more of the airdrop. You list, you bid, or you lend on Blend, their NFT lending protocol, and then you earn points. But then they added an extra thing this time. In season 3, if you hold Blur, you also earn points. So what did this do? It actually caused the token price to go up, not to go down. And this is where you got to give it to Pac-Man and the Blur team. They're airdrop casino geniuses. I'm not sure what category I would give them, whether you want to call it Ponzi-nomics or what, but they are geniuses at marketing to degens and at getting degens to put more money in, not take their money out. Now, what's impressive about this is the way that Blur did the airdrop claim was very smart. So when you go to the Blur website to claim your airdrop, you go to a page where, first of all, it celebrates the airdrop and tells you how great you were and what we did for the ecosystem and how Blur became the largest NFT marketplace in the ecosystem, and you were a part of that. So it's very inspiring, very exciting. It's almost celebratory in nature. And then it takes you to a page to claim your airdrop. And once you claim your airdrop, it takes you to a page where it shows you what happens if you leave your tokens in Blur. You will get rewards for season 3. And these rewards for season 3 for holding Blur tokens. So it's sort of like staking. It's not exactly staking, but it's that idea of if you hold token, you will get rewards later. In this case, it's not yield. You get rewards in the form of a future airdrop, which is undetermined exactly what you get. So there's definitely risk involved there. The key is the way this worked was right away when you claim this airdrop, you're marketed to by saying, hey, don't take this money out of Blur. Don't go sell this. Don't go trade this. You're going to get rewards if you leave this in. And you can see points tallying up right in front of you. It literally looks like a slot machine. Like it's very casino vibes, right? What does that make you do? That makes you want to keep your tokens in Blur. Not only that, it probably makes you want to add more tokens to Blur and buy more Blur tokens because you're going to get more rewards, more dopamine hit, more excitement, instant gratification, all of that. And that's what the Blur team has done here. And as a result, their token price has gone up, not gone down since their airdrop.
Yeah, I must say, you know what, let's explain Blast, and then I think we'll talk about the whole ecosystem together. And so Blast is a new layer 2 that the Blur team has just launched, as Jay mentioned. It is not live. It is actually not even a layer 2 right now. It is just a smart contract that's controlled by a multi-sig of 5 people. And what's wild is basically they've said, again, they're doing another airdrop here. Is this part of season 3 as well, Jay, or is this something completely different?
So Blast has an airdrop. Blur has a season 3 airdrop. They're 2 separate airdrop, but they are connected as well because if you participate in Blur season 3, you also can get boosted on Blast. So you get more Blast.
And likely they'll end up putting Blur on Blast very soon, I'm sure, obviously, so that people are paying the fees that they're paying on Ethereum L1. And so basically what they're asking now is if you bridge money over to this L2, and I say that in quotations because it's not an L2 right now, one, you'll get yield, whether it's ETH or stablecoins. If it's ETH, it immediately puts it into like a Lido Rocket Pool type thing and you get your yield. If it's stablecoins, they put it into treasuries and they give you the yield, which is kind of like what we talked about with USDM before, and I think it was in a pro report. Anyway, so that's like, it's a great idea. I love that innovation. We'll talk more about that in a second. But just there's reached, I think, something like 90. Do we have the numbers of what that is now? What the TVL is in there?
Oh, yeah. TVL is 330 million, 45,000 users.
That is insane. Hey, guys, it is not an L2. It is just a wallet. You're just sending your money to Pac-Man's multi-sig wallet. $300 million. This industry is nuts. Absolute nuts. Anyway, if you want to do it, go for it. You're going to farm points. You're going to get some yield, but you can do the yield thing on your own. But just understand the risks here. Now, obviously, they're backed by Paradigm, a very reputable company. Pac-Man's been around for a while, so like you'd hope they don't do anything. But like we all thought Sam Bankman-Fried was great too. So just understanding the risk here. Now, ultimately, though, what Pac-Man understands is 2 things. One, liquidity is king. You need liquidity for anything in crypto, whether it's NFT trading, whether it's you want to run an L2 and you want to be like a chain or an ecosystem, whether it's you want to be a DEX, like whether it's lending, you need liquidity. And Blur has done an amazing job at incentivizing liquidity. That's what season 1 and season 2 have been about, which is trade, sell your things, put your things up for sale on our platforms, or take out loans against your NFTs on Blend. That's getting liquidity. Now they have an L2. What are they doing? They want liquidity over there. Send your shit over to us, get it in on our chain, because if you have it on our chain, you're more likely to use the products that we do on chain. And so they're just masters at that. The other thing masters at, as you said, is incentives and this whole airdrop idea. I've always been against this, and I've realized over the last few months, mainly through this bear market, like I think speculation does have a place, whether that be like speculation plus or just speculation in general, because there's a lot of people that like to gamble and speculate. Think of sports betting, think of casinos, etc. Like it's a big growing industry. And I think Pac-Man knows his audience. He's got a bunch of degens that love to speculate. And so why not give them what they want, right? For that audience, it's smart. If you were like, if Instagram was to go and launch something, they're not going to do something like this. It's not a good plan for them. But for something like Pac-Man that has these degen type audience, I think it's a very smart move. And I mean, he's proving that it's working well. Now, to be clear on the Blur token, they're just kicking the can here. There still is no actual utility for the token. The only demand to buy right now is that you can get more of these tokens, which is super inflationary. Okay. So you need to understand that. At some point, if they don't find a way to burn these tokens or create more utility, then this token price continues to go down. This is a short-term current demand. We'll see how long that goes for. Maybe it lasts the entire season. I'm not sure. Let's see. But eventually they got to find something. Now, my guess here is that the L2 is a great way now to use Blur tokens or Blast tokens because they're going to now have two in their ecosystem for fees, right? Maybe you can use either one and it probably burns some of them. / if you stake your tokens and help secure the network, maybe you're going to get some more tokens too. So that makes people want to buy it and hold it to stake it. And then also every time you use Blend, Blur, Blast, you're going to pay fees. I also think they'll probably by the end of this season turn on platform fees on Blend and on Blur. And maybe they'll burn, maybe those fees will be in the Blur token and they might burn some or put some in a treasury or whatever they're going to do. They'll find ways to sort of like sync the token, and that way it'll even out. If they don't do that stuff, they have to keep kicking the can down the road, right? Which is like, hey, keep holding on until we figure something out. So anyway, love the ecosystem they're building, love the tactics they're using for their specific audience. I don't think everyone should use this, and then we'll see what they can do with their token. But I think there's a lot of other examples out there of how we can burn and make favorable tokenomics, which I think they can do. Plus, we're about to go into a bull market, and so they have another 2 years of just demand. So they don't need to figure it out right away. So these guys, they're doing a great job. I'm quite impressed. The last thing I want to know, unless there's anything you want to add on this, Jay, I'm going to talk about the L2 side of things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the other thing I want to say is this idea of native yield on your L2 is super smart. I think this is a really, really cool thing. Look, is Blast going to be the next big L2? Like, I don't know, don't really care. But I do think this is a cool idea. There is a lot of wasted yield out there right now. People that just have ETH doing nothing, people that have stablecoins that are making nothing, and they can be making things in a risk-free way. And to have your platform just automatically do that through smart contracts is super cool. Now, the stablecoins is still going to treasury, so there's centralized risk there. So again, the specific ways of doing this is not perfect yet, but seeing this as a new innovative way for L2s is really cool. And I think something a lot of people haven't thought about of like, how much more innovation can we do on L2s? Optimism, Arbitrum, these are great, but they're basic. We can do some really cool stuff and have some really cool use cases at the protocol layer, which I just think is super, super, super interesting. So excited to see where this goes. And I think this creates a lot more innovation for L2s in the future.
Yeah, I think just to wrap up quickly on Blur Season 3 and Blast. So just so everyone knows dates, Blast mainnet is set to launch in February 2024. We'll see if they actually launch them, but that's their target date. Blur Season 3 is set to conclude in May 2024, and the Blast airdrop is also set for May 2024. Now, these are all, approximate dates, so we'll see if they stick to all these. Would I go and farm Blur Season 3 or Blast? No, I wouldn't, because these are casino-like games, right? You do not know what you're going to get. There's also huge risk in putting your token into Blast because, as Kyle said, it's centralized. It's not an actual...
You can't withdraw. There's no bridge out.
You can't withdraw, exactly. You can't withdraw until the airdrop. So they're just taking your liquidity and using it to build their own company, which, like, shout out to them. Incredible job of figuring out a model to raise capital and raise liquidity. But I wouldn't be doing it, that's for sure. Or if I did do it, I would do it with a small amount just because I wanted to have fun, basically, right? So go ahead, throw in a few $100 because you're like, I want to have fun, I want to try this. But the main takeaway for me is everybody needs to be watching this. Stop saying that, Blur is a joke and Pac-Man is a Ponzi-nomic master. Like, who cares? These guys are doing something. They're using airdrops in a way to build community, to build a product, and we all can
generate liquidity.
Yeah, and so I don't think everybody should go lean into speculation, but there is ways to use speculation. There's ways to use an airdrop. There's ways to use the claiming experience to make a great experience for your users and to build liquidity. So don't throw this off. I think everybody should pay attention. I might do a pro report coming up on this because I think it's very
that. You definitely should. All right, let's jump to the OpenAI saga and just get you guys up to speed on what's going on there. I'm sure you guys have heard it a ton in other places, so we're not going to go deep. I do want to touch on why this matters in terms of decentralization in the crypto world. But basically, in case you've been living under a rock or don't live on Twitter, Sam Altman, the CEO founder of OpenAI, was fired from the board on Friday afternoon last week. Then some craziness happened where basically all the employees, the Microsoft who didn't know this was happening, and a few of the investors came back to the board and were like, you need to rehire him. This is insane. And you have until 5 p.m. on Saturday to do it. They didn't do it. Microsoft said, screw it. They hired Sam Altman for their new AI project, as well as one of the board members. And so he was an employee of Microsoft for a few days until 6% of all employees said that they are going to leave and go to Microsoft if OpenAI board doesn't hire them back. And so ended up on Wednesday, the entire board was fired. Sam Altman was rehired and they got a whole new board over at OpenAI. So just an absolute wild week in that company. But here's the interesting part that I took from this. OpenAI ChatGPT is a platform, right? We think of it as an app that we all use, but it's a platform. There are hundreds, thousands of companies that have built on top of ChatGPT and OpenAI. They use APIs. They've built their own businesses like using OpenAI or ChatGPT. If those go away, their business goes away. Similar to like people who've built on Twitter, people who have built on Facebook in the past, etc. And they have been rugged in the past. There was a non-zero chance that OpenAI ChatGPT was going to just implode here in terms of the company. We didn't know what would happen to the tech. Maybe someone would just bought it out. Like, we didn't know what was going to happen here. And if you were running a business on OpenAI or ChatGPT that relies on it, you would have been screwed. Your business would have been gone just like that because of 4 people on a board, which is just wild, right? And so there was a tweet that was put out of, I forget the name of the person, but he was like, today I'm really thinking about centralization versus decentralization. And Elon Musk commented on it and said, me too. Or said same, which really got the industry, I think, at least the Web3 industry, excited because, hey, decentralization is important. And it's just something to think about. Like, technologies that are lower on the tech stack, protocols, let's call it, they need to be decentralized and not controlled by one person or one entity because they need to be here forever. You don't want to build your company on real estate that might be gone tomorrow. This is a massive thing that, like, big events happen over time, and we continuously realize this and learn this. Twitter, when it turned off its APIs years ago, shut down hundreds of businesses, thousands of businesses. And so people realized, whoa, this doesn't make sense. When we look at technologies like Ethereum and Solana and Bitcoin, these are decentralized protocols that we can build on top of that can never get shut down. And if the founder goes away, if a big team from that goes away, there's still many other teams that are keeping it running. And that is just so key to a strong future for businesses and for technology. And it's just something that we need to continue to push. And obviously blockchain Web3 is at the root of all that. And so I think this just shines the light of how important what we're building in our industry is. So that was my takeaway of this whole saga.
Yeah, I'm just glad to see that they worked it all out because OpenAI is a great company that is building amazing things. And I don't know. I don't want to see them all go to Microsoft. So I want, I know Microsoft owns a lot of OpenAI, but it's kind of nice to have a little bit of separation there. We don't need more mega giant tech companies. We need.
So I invest in Microsoft, so I was not mad about it.
That's only because you can't invest in OpenAI.
Exactly, 100%. All right, next up, last on the big news stories is Argentina has a new president, Javier Milei, I believe is his name. And the crypto world got pretty excited about this. The reason is people are calling him the next crypto president, kind of like naive.
El Salvador's president.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. El Salvador's president, where he's basically made Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador. They also are on the US dollar there. So the big thing here is in Argentina, their peso has been inflating over 100% a year, and they have a lot of controls on their money in Argentina. And so it's very difficult for Argentinians to get access to US dollars. And it's very costly to do that. When they switch over, it costs 10, 20, 30% of their value just to switch over to another currency, which is insane and should be like illegal and should never exist, but that's what they have to deal with. And so they've had these sort of like controlling presidents. And finally, they have one that cares about freedom, cares about capitalism, and hates the peso. And so this is a really good thing for Argentina. He's never really said much about crypto other than he thinks it's great in terms of like its freedom, but he's never said anything about making Argentina go on like the Bitcoin standard or any sort of crypto. He's actually just said that he thinks Argentina will go in the US dollar, which is actually not bullish at all for crypto. And it's actually the complete opposite. Right now, because it's hard to get US dollars, crypto is a lifeline. Stablecoins are a lifeline. Even Bitcoin, ETH is a lifeline. Even though it's super volatile, it's a lifeline for Argentinians who, have pesos. When they move to the US dollar and it now becomes easy to have US dollars, well, they don't need stablecoins anymore. Most people don't need Bitcoin and Ethereum at that point. Yes, of course, it will go up versus US dollar, but like most people in the world don't know that, don't understand that, and don't care about that. Most people in the world don't invest. People were buying Bitcoin because it was an escape to freedom, but when you can get the US dollar at cost, well, they don't need to do that anymore. So I actually think this is more of maybe a bearish thing, short term anyway. The one thing I would say is good is if they bring in capitalism, more of that, more companies will go there. Maybe they'll be more friendly to crypto exchanges and to crypto companies, and they can have a thriving like economy there, which of course that's a great thing. So I'd say like, I think crypto people, Bitcoin people mainly just got too excited here. Brian Armstrong, we have a tweet up here where he actually reached out to Javier. He lived in Argentina for a year and is hoping to speak with him. So like, sure, there's going to be good things happening here, but it's just, he's not the next Bitcoin or crypto president by any means. Though, fun fact, he has a big following on Instagram. Obviously, he's a president of Argentina. And I think it was last year or 2 years ago, for whatever reason, shilled some random shit coin, like the shittiest of shit coins. Like it was a pure...
It actually wasn't a coin. I looked it up. He shilled a digital finance company. They didn't have a coin, but he shilled their company. It was called CoinX World. And he did this, I think, in early 2022 or late 2021 during the bull market when everybody was throwing money at any digital finance company, even though this wasn't even really a crypto company, I don't think. And the company later was like raided and shut down, and all the investors lost their money.
Well, thank you for correcting me on that. I had just saw some people talking about he was shilling some shit coin, but I guess it's just a shit company, not a shit coin. So that's good news.
Yeah.
Either way, if you've seen this guy, he's very Trump-esque. Not in terms of like him with the things he says, although like he's very outspoken and pretty aggressive in the things he says, but just like he's wacky and all over the place and weird dude, it looks like to me.
He's a marketer. He's a character, and that's what wins in politics now with all media going to short form content across social media. Is we just want viral content, and the president who yells the most and is the most ridiculous on camera is the one who wins, apparently.
Yeah.
Look, I think, like you said, it feels like a step in the right direction for Argentina, a country that is in a bad economic situation. So hope the best for them.
Yeah, and hopefully they are open to crypto and enable that and try to build in that, because obviously it would be better than the US dollar, and hopefully he realizes that. I think he will, but let's see. I'll be in Argentina for a month in January, so I will do my best to speak to Javier and let you guys know what he thinks.
Love it. Love it. Okay, for fun this time, we're going to do the quick hits a little bit differently. Kai, I'm going to take you through, we talked about Blur and Blast. I'm going to take you through some opinions about Pac-Man, Blur, and Blast, and I want you to tell me if you agree or disagree with each one of these.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Put me on the spot.
First up, this from NFT Stats. This is Punk9059. He says, double crown. We are witnessing one of the best entrepreneurs there is in Pac-Man and the single best Ponzi-preneur the world has ever known. Agree or disagree?
Ooh, I would say I disagree. I mean, Ponzi-preneur, sure. Although I would say Madoff is a way bigger Ponzi-preneur. What did he do? Like billions of dollars. And so probably better. I think what Pac-Man is doing is amazing, but I still think he needs to like He's done some really cool stuff. He hasn't actually done anything that great just yet. Like, he needs to show that this becomes economically sustainable. Then I'm like, whoa, you did some amazing stuff, but like this still could fall apart at any point. And so I don't think he's really achieved much just yet. There's only a couple, like tens of thousands of people using his shit. So it's not that big.
Keyword this shit. Okay, next up, Mackie Big Brother said, fuck Blur and fuck Pac-Man. Agree or disagree?
I disagree, but I get why he agrees. He lost, Mackie's the big like farmer on in NFTs, and he lost $14 million farming Blur. He made $2 million from his airdrop, but lost $14 million. So he spent $16 million farming and only got $2 million.
Ouch.
Ouch. Wild.
Okay, next up from Domain Shane on Twitter. No offense, but I'm betting on Pac-Man Blur. People are betting millions on teenagers running 40 yards in a football game, but don't like people gambling on NFTs. He knows the abilities of the blockchain and your non-ability to stop gambling. Don't hate the game, hate the players.
I agree 100. I agree 100% on here. This is the realization I had this bear market is, you know what? I get we don't necessarily love it for certain use cases, but there's a lot of people that love gambling. A lot of people that love speculating. It's fun. He's the best at that. I would say that for sure.
Okay, last one. This is from Brain Genius. This is what Paradigm does now. Ultra gamification on some bullshit you don't need, but that you'll use in hopes of an airdrop. Well, that and an undisclosed MEV extraction through Beaver Build.
Yeah, so Paradigm is invested in a lot of airdrop type companies. They invested, I believe, in Friendtech, obviously in Blast, and a bunch of others. It seems that this is what they do, but like, I don't know. I do think they are doing it in ones that are not Ponzi schemes, that are actually trying to build real apps. Friendtech, as much as I don't use it, I think they're trying to build something. And same with Blur, Blend, Blast. And so like, I think they're investing in airdrops, but I think it's for a purpose. And I think it's going to be a good thing and something we're going to use in the future.
Yeah, I think Paradigm sees that there is billions of dollars held by degens right now. Yeah. And degens like to gamble and like to play games and get involved. Just go look at the Blast website, right? Airdrop is the first button in the nav. Airdrop, it's literally the first button. Then leaderboard, it's all about, and get your invitation token, get your invite code and get in. This is all very much gamified. Like, it's gamified to the max. And I think Paradigm sees that, and they're leaning into that because, look, it's a big opportunity right now. And I don't think it will last forever because there will be much more stable ways to, I mean, look, actually, you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will last forever because there will always be people who want to speculate and play. There will always be people who want to speculate. Maybe it's more so there will always be very high risk individuals who just want to play games.
Of course there is. There's going to be tons of them. And more, I think, too.
Well, there you go. So, can't believe it. For the first time ever, we are actually saying that we like what Blur is doing. We're not telling you to go get involved. I want to be clear here.
We're just intrigued.
More so as business owners ourselves, as people that are aiming to help you learn what to do on chain. Blur is one to watch because they're doing things that you can only do on chain.
Hey, this is an industry in constant transformation, which is so what we always say. We have to also allow ourselves to transform as well.
Ooh, good one.
Let's go.
Good one. Look at us. Evolving, growing. That's it. Well, thanks so much for listening in, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving to all the Americans out there. If you aren't in our Discord yet, make sure you join. 2 weeks, first Tuesday in December, we're going to be meeting up to give you the top tips that you need to capitalize on the coming bull run. Don't miss out. See you around. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy, your one trusted source to capitalize on the next big phase of the internet. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it and subscribe or follow so that you don't miss the next one. While you're at it, there's a link in the description for our free newsletter where we provide timely and relevant Web3 insights so you can confidently build and invest in Web3. Make sure to subscribe today. One final note. This podcast is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Crypto and Web3 are risky, and you should never invest more than you're willing to lose. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.